with us. So we're going to talk about communication. We're going to talk about relational capital and all the things that we have to focus on first within our own lives, and also to really be the CEO of our business, because we lead by example, both in our personal lives and our professional lives. And if we are not being the executive and we are not demonstrating our leadership skills and effective communication, then how can we expect anyone else in our organizations to do that? So I'm super excited about that. If you are on Facebook checking this, whether it's a replay or not, let me know where you're dialing in from, and let us know, how are the action steps from days 1, 2, and 3 going? If you're here on Zoom, what action steps did you pick? And how is it going? If you chose hydration, are you getting that glass of water in first thing in the morning? If you chose on time management to set a boundary or to say no to something, how is that going? Were you able to move through with that? Because that was 24 hours ago. And we know that speed of implementation is everything. And the consistent effort day in and day out is what forms the habits that then allow us to become the CEO of our business and our life. So today, day 4, if you are not ready, get your pen out, your paper. We are going to dive right in with become the CEO of your business and life. People skills, relationship, leadership. We are super excited about this. We're going to talk about self-leadership because we are having to take care of our own selves first. We are having to become the CEO of our lives first and do all these things. And then we can demonstrate that within our personal and professional lives with our organizations. We're going to talk a little bit about leadership versus being a boss, communication, and relational capital, because these are all key concepts, whether we're talking about our personal life and our family lives, or whether we're talking about our business and how we're going to manage our employees. So leadership starts with us. I've said it a couple times. We really must walk our talk. Just like when kids are learning from their parents and the parent says, no, little Johnny, don't eat chocolate before dinner. But then mommy or daddy goes and eats chocolate for dinner. What does little Johnny think is okay? It's okay to eat chocolate before dinner. There's no, if you're good with that, that's great. But whatever you do, whatever you tell your children, you want to make sure that you're walking that talk, because their eyes tell them a different story. And you want to make sure you have that trust and they see that that is in alignment with what you are doing. So walk your talk. The same happens in business. If you are the CEO of your business and you want a non-judgment and a confidential status, you can't then bring your staff in and talk about another staff member in the room, because that's a breach of confidentiality. That's not something that you want, and you can't say to do something without also doing it yourself. So walk your talk. If you want your employees to be maximally effective, efficient, and not be on their phone while they're in a project, you can't be on your phone while you're on a project. So let's walk our talk, and it starts with us. And then leadership versus being a boss. Has anybody worked in the corporate world before and had that leader that just told you what to do all the time, but didn't actually set you for success? Or that when you had an amazing idea that was going to really move the group forward or be, very positive for the team, maybe it's something more efficient, it was immediately shut down because, no, I do it this way and this is the only way, period, and a story. Don't talk to me about anything else. That's being a boss. And the reality is, if you've paid attention to any articles that have come out in the last, 10 years, that's not an effective way to truly be a leader. When we are leaders, when we're really being the CEO of our organization, what we're doing is we're hiring people smarter than us for the roles that execute. I'm going to use an engineering firm as an example. So if you are an engineering manager and your role is to manage the people, you want to hire subject matter experts in each area who are going to bring the expertise. And you may not be able to get that deep in the details because you are the leader of the group. You want the high level things so you can make the quick decisions, and you want to trust people smarter than you. Let them bring what absolutely needs to happen. So your job is very quick. You are getting the absolutely best information every single time, that it's well vetted and you can trust those people, which brings us into trust. Trust is an amazing thing. And I actually had this conversation with a client yesterday, and that was trust. And the statement said to me was, well, this is a business owner. It takes a long time to build trust. I'm going to suggest that if you're hiring someone you better trust them when you hire them. Because if they then have to build the trust, they're starting in a place where they're not confident. If you're second guessing your hires every step of the way and you're not trusting them and allowing them to make their own mistakes, because let's be real, when we hire somebody, we will never hire us. They broke the mold when they made Jen. They broke the mold when they made you. We are each unique for a reason. We have our own strengths, our own interests, and our own experience. We don't want to hire someone who is a clone of us, because what we're doing is we're hiring somebody who has the same blind spots, the same weaknesses as us. We want to hire people that complement and bring the team up. And so I'm an idea person. I am a creative problem solver. Where I need help is in systems. I hate systems. Like, tie me down. It's like being pinned down if I have to sit there and do technology, for example, any kind of technology. So who do I hire? Who do I outsource? I outsource the things that, while I know how to do them, it's inefficient for me and I'm not the best person. I'm gonna hire somebody smarter than me on my team that can do all of the things and bring that to me so I can make the decision, this program or that, this CRM or that. I don't have the time to do that. I want to hire someone who really knows what they're doing. But when I hire them, I need to trust them to do their due diligence. And I need to also know that they're going to make their own mistakes. No human is infallible. So trust also doesn't get broken when somebody makes a mistake. That's another thing that is a very misconstrued situation. Everyone makes mistakes. Period, end of story. And if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't make mistakes, I'm going to call BS on that right now and say you're not actually being truly honest with yourself. And if you never make a mistake, it means you're playing so small that you're never going to actually get to the next level. Because if we're that rock star in what we do, and we're never, ever making mistakes, we're basically saying we're infallible, which is kind of not the human existence, but we're also playing small and we're not growing. So trust is about trusting first. Trust when you hire, trust yourself to make the right hire. So verify, do all your due diligence before you bring someone on. You hire slowly so that you can do your preliminary screens and your series of interviews so that you know that they've got the experience, that you've researched them. I cyber stalk people. I'm just going to say it. Like, I want to know that they walk their talk because that's important in my organization. Right? I have values and you hire for your values. Like, my organization values certain things. I'm not going to hire someone who doesn't put giving back and raising the community really high up on their value list, because that's who I am and that's what my values are. So my team then has to reflect that. You can't reinstill values in people. Like, we all have our own priorities and our own values. So you hire slow, you verify, and then when you put them in the role, you trust them to do the role that they were hired for. And you have that safe space for them to fail. And that trust means that they can come to you and say, I made a mistake, or I'm not sure how to do this. Can you please walk me through this process or the system? Because the reality is, even when you hire the most intelligent subject matter expert in any area, they're not accustomed to your policies, your procedures, and your flow. So there's going to be a transition period. But if we don't start with trust and we make them build trust, it's a confidence killer. And it impacts their productivity and everything for the team. So leadership versus being a boss: hire for culture, hire for team alignment, hire for the strength of the team. Don't hire a bunch of people who are just like you. Great. Now we're the CEO with leadership. We are being a leader. We're empowering other people to really step into their best selves. Let's talk about communication, because whether it's in our business or our life, communication is the key to human relationships. If we cannot communicate, then we don't feel heard, we get frustrated, that's where conflict arises. And if we don't allow others to communicate, the same thing might occur. So communication boils down to a couple things. Number one, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's because active listening to understand, is so incredibly key. If you're in business, you have to actually listen to your clients to hear what your next product offering or your next service. It doesn't even matter if you have the best product on the face of the planet. If it doesn't solve your ideal client's problem, they're not going to buy. And if we don't do that, if we don't listen to our clients, if we're not constantly listening and adapting and growing, then they attrition out, and we are constantly in that churn. We have more churn. I'm sure you guys have heard that in business, where you're having that constant, churn of people in, and then you have to work to get more people in, people go out, and it's like this revolving door. So active listening is very key because it allows us to do a lot of things. We get to understand other perspectives. We get to understand what the problems are so that we can, as CEOs, make the best decision on our next path forward. So communication is also all about body language. 93% of communication is not the words coming out of your mouth. It's your tonality. It's, are you making eye contact? It's, are you actually engaged? So a quick tip, if you're a CEO and you're talking to your staff, if they're leaning back, they're completely disengaged. They're not listening. There's no active listening going on. They may be defensive. If their arms are crossed, they're not receptive. So our body language should always be nice, open, relaxed to a certain extent, lean in so people know that you are engaged with them. And then listen and pay attention to your tonality. Because I can say a couple of things. I can say, I can't believe that you ... Or I could say, listen, we all make mistakes. And here's what I'd like to have happen next, right? It's two completely different tones, two completely different sets of words, and two completely different body languages to get the same point across. I'm not happy with what you did. And in one respect, the person's going to immediately throw up the defenses, right? And in the other, they're going to say, okay, yeah, I'm open to hearing what your feedback is. So our body language is incredibly key. Our tonality is key. We want to be engaged. We don't want to be a monotone. We don't want to be looking. We don't want to be on our phone and doing other things. We want to be present. So being present in communication, in my humble opinion, is the most important part of any communication. And I don't care if this is on a phone, if this is on a Zoom. If you're on Zoom and you're talking to the photo of somebody, you don't know if they're actually listening or not. It's so incredibly important that we're fully present. So whether you're on phone, whether you're on a video conference, whether you're in person, you want to be focused on the person who's speaking and give them that respect. Because if we get back to something that we said a couple of days ago, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We want to be shown respect. Human beings want validation. They want to be heard. And so when we are hearing them, when we are listening to them, when we are demonstrating understanding, when we ask them questions so that we could further understand and we're fully present, then the person across the table from us feels like they're validated, they're engaged in the situation, and they are actually going to be more receptive to our part of the conversation. So let's talk a little bit about the other parts of communication. As a CEO, it's very important that we dress the part. You only get one chance at a first impression. And this is whether you're going into an interview, when you're meeting with people, when you're trying to close deal, when you're presenting in front of an audience, when you're just having a conversation with a client. And so think about, as a CEO, what is your brand? If you work with C-suite people, you want to have your blazer on. If I showed up in a boardroom and I didn't have a blazer on and I wasn't professionally dressed, do you think they would give me the time of day? No, they wouldn't take me seriously. So think about your brand, think about your client. Likewise, if you're in trades and services, in your clientele, you show up and you don't have any kind of logo, insignia, or kind of uniform for what you do, they're going to be like, who is this person in this, white shirt and shorts coming into my garden? I like to know that, at least a t-shirt with a logo. Be present, dress your part so that people feel safe, because the way we present ourselves is part of the trust equation. People buy from people. They buy from companies that share values, and you need to be able to articulate that, not just with your mouth, but with your body language and with your attire and with how you show up. So dress the part. And with communication, always be prepared. I don't care who you're going to meet with, whether it's a family member, a friend, whether it is in business, always be prepared. If I'm going to have a one-on-one with someone who I've never really met before, and I think I might want to do business with this person, or they might be a good referral partner of mine, I'm going to go research them. Remember I cyber stalk people? Yeah. I'm going to try to find them online and find something out about their business. And I'm going to kind of jot it down so I have some talking points. Oh, hey, I noticed that your company is really, really engaged in, clean technology. Can you tell me more? Ask the question. So you come prepared. If you're coming for an interview, be prepared about the company that's in front of you. If you're trying to close a deal, know something about them, because that is a sign of respect. To me, when someone comes prepared and they bring out a notebook and they're taking notes, I know they're present. I know they're engaged, and I know they care about that conversation. Make sure that you're really effective and impactful with your communication, with your active listening to understand, asking clarification questions, restate it. Hey, I hear that you really have an issue with, revolving door in your staff and your employees. I know, I completely understand. Have you considered this, or how is it? What is it that, why are they leaving? Asking the questions and getting more information so that you show that you're engaged. Being present, dressing the part, being prepared, and making eye contact. Those are pretty keys to success in communication in any way. Let's talk about my favorite topic. We've talked about dressing the part. We've talked about looking the part. We've talked about communication. Now let's talk about the real nitty gritty about being the CEO of your business in your life. Relational capital. When we are business owners, our network is our net worth. Period. End of story. And we kind of talked about this a little bit a couple days ago. If you're surrounded by people who support you and who lift you up, then you're less likely to sabotage yourself. Remember that self-sabotage conversation? So think about who you're surrounding yourself by. Are they business owners? Are they business owners in the next level of growth? Are they where you want to be? If I am going to network, I'm going to put myself in a room where I'm not the smartest person in the room. I want to actually put myself in a room that is everybody is way further advanced than me, because that's an opportunity for me to learn and grow. I do want to be able to add value to them as well. So I put myself in a room where I have some expertise, but there's a lot of other ways that I can add to them and they can add to me. But let's treat our relationships in business just like we treat a bank account. People can be transactional, and maybe you go to a group and people are throwing cards and they're like, hey, do business with me. Like, that's transactional. Or you can take the time to get to know the business, know if you align in values, and really, really get to know one another before you conduct business. So if you treat your relationship like a bank account, it kind of looks like this, right? If you're going to go start an account, you're going to go and you're going to deposit some money. And then you're going to get some money, you're going to deposit some money again, and you're going to deposit some money again. And then maybe you have to pay some bills. So then you're going to withdraw some money to pay your bills, right? The same happens in relationships. I'm going to pick on Paula because Paula's right there in the face bubble next to me on my computer. First time I meet Paula, hey, Paula, how are you? How can I add value to you? Oh, you need a referral for this. Here, I actually know somebody who I use. This is who I use. I'm going to add value to her. Oh, Paula's going to say, I'm so stressed. I'm like, hey, try this technique, because this really works for me. It's worked for some of my clients. So add value, add value, because those deposits are required prior to withdrawal, and really get to know what it is that Paula needs. And Paula may be like, hey, Jen, I really need some help with this. I'm not good at my time management. So I'm going to say, fantastic, Paula. I hear that you're not very good with time management. We've already talked about managing your stress and some other things. I actually coach on that. Would you like to do business with me? And I'm asking for the business. Or maybe that's when I ask for the referral. Hey, Paula, I've helped you with stress management already because of this technique. If this technique was useful to you and you have somebody who really use a little bit more in-depth coaching on that, please refer them to me. But I've already built that value. Next is situational awareness. So even if we have an amazing relationship, right? We've been building relationships. We've been together for a long time. Now I'm going to pick on Carrie because I see Carrie right underneath Paula on my computer. I've known Carrie for a really long time. We've done business together. I've referred to her. She's referred to me. We're friends. We do things together. We know a lot of people. We have no problem passing business amongst one another. And then I have a need. Maybe I have put a ton of value in, and now it's my turn to ask, right? And I come to the table and Carrie looks distressed. Guess what's going to happen? I'm going to read that Carrie looks distressed, and I'm going to say, oh my goodness, Carrie, are you okay? Is everything okay? And she's going to go, oh, my dog's not doing well, or, whatever. She's going to give me something, and I'm going to shift. I am not going to ask what I came to because the situation does not dictate it. I'm going to give you another example. We had Snowmageddon in Houston a couple of weeks ago. Like, business was rocking and rolling. Well, I didn't call people to say, hey, we have an appointment. Why didn't you make your appointment? I was calling my people to say, hey, are you okay? Is your family okay? Do you need anything? I didn't even have like water. I had brown water and like whatever. And I still was like, have you had an opportunity to have warmth? Come to my house. You know, I'm going to be situationally aware and take care of people, because just because we're in a state and just because we built that relationship doesn't mean it's always right for the time. So really having that situational awareness, it ties into the active listening and the communication piece, but knowing the situational awareness. And maybe Carrie needs a good vet or something. And then I can say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about this. You know what? My vet does this a little bit different. Why don't you check that out? Like give them some sort of value, take care of the people who are in front of you, because when we take care of our relationships and we take care of our clients, especially, our clients will take care of us. And that period, end of story, is how we grow solid brands in business. And then finally, the law of reciprocity, right? So if you're looking above and you've never tried this relational capital thing, you might think, I'm tired of giving things for free. But the reality is, when I show up every single day, when I do workshops like this every single day, and I show up and I show up and I show up and I show up, somebody watching this 3 months from now is going to reach out to me and say, hey, I got so much from those workshops and now I'm ready for the next step. What do I need to do to work with you? And so that's kind of the law of reciprocity. You give a lot, and as human beings, we kind of feel compelled to help the other person as well. It's a psychology situation with us. There's a whole lot of research on that. But keep in mind that we get what we give. So if we're always giving with an expectation of receiving, that energetic is also felt. So go with it and go from the position of, hey, I'm just here to show up and I'm here to help someone today. I think I've shared this already a couple days ago, but it is my mission to impact 1 million business owners this year. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to do that by showing up and doing things like this. If you've been listening to this all this time, we have talked about so many things. We talked about leadership, being a leader, not a boss. We talked about hiring people smarter than us so that we can elevate our team. We talked about setting our team up for success and trusting. Trust but verify, trusting, giving the trust so that we have the confidence in our team. We also talked about communication. We talked about dressing the part, being prepared, taking notes. We talked about active listening and being present, and body language. And then we talked about relational capital and adding value and really building the deep relationships so that when the time comes, we know who we're doing business with. So if you are going to do anything today, pick the one thing that you haven't done before, or maybe you did it a long time ago, but you've gotten away from it. Pick one thing and decide that you're going to implement that and take action on that. Why? Because when we pick one thing and we put it into practice, we start to do it every single day. It becomes a part of who we are. And when it's a part of who we are, we don't have to think about it. It's called a habit. This is how we change and we build our habits. Of course, knowledge is part of the equation. Action steps are where the magic happens. That's called implementation. We're going to pick one thing, integrate it into our day, and we're going to do it every day. And then, of course, leaning on support and accountability when the going gets tough. Find yourself someone who's going to give you a no BS. Hey, you didn't do what you say you're going to do. Call out, because that's what we need. We don't need somebody to say, oh, Jen, life's beautiful. Everything's perfect. It's okay that you don't do anything you say do. No, an accountability partner is going to kick you in the butt and say, what are you doing? What do we need to do to move forward? And if you don't have that person, that's what coaching is for. Coaches are here. We get you. We're right there alongside of you. We take you by the arm and walk every step of the way with you. So when you do have a stumble, you can reach out and we've got you. We are in your corner. Always, when we're doing habit change or we're implementing new things, don't forget to give yourself grace. We're not going to be perfect when we implement. Aim for that 1% improvement every single day. And I would love to open it up for questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the live stream before we do questions, and stop the screen share and open it up. Paula, Carrie.
That was fantastic. I just put in the chat for people to share if they would like to, one area that they would like to choose to take action in, and what is that one action step, as that has been our mantra and our action to you, or our request for action for the whole week, is to definitely pick one thing that you got out of the workshop today, and how you're going to implement that in your life today. And it's always reminder to me. I, like someone else said, that relationships is where I'm going to focus on, and networking and building up that relationship bank account, so that when there is an opportunity to withdraw, or if there's a need to withdraw, that there is money in the bank, to withdraw. And so I'm excited about that. Thank you for that reminder. And it looks like in the chat we have some other of our viewers that are saying they want to improve body language. They want to keep on marketing. So those kind of things are steps that they're going to take. And if no one has before I ask a question, does anyone else have a question? Um, Okay, great. So one of the things that Jen is a master at, and if you could expound on, Jen, is body language. And it's a ninja skill, but maybe you could give us a couple tips when we're networking and talking to people, our employees or fellow partners, how to read some body language.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first things first, there's something called micro expressions. And if you really want to learn about reading people, you can actually Google micro expressions, and they have YouTubes where they literally get like up close and personal, and they show you what surprise and disgust looks like from the masters of disguise, because there are some cultures that they really mask everything very well. And so you can actually get up to speed on micro expressions. It's too much to do on Zoom, but just Google that. It's a great way to really dial it in and read people. Most people are not really ninja at controlling their expressions, like poker players. And, here in the United States, we're very expressive. And so the basics of body language are this. For yourself, you always want to be open. So think about rolling your shoulders back and down, and kind of squeezing your shoulder blades together, because what that does, that's a completely open posture. And even better, it helps you look confident. So if you're going to walk into a room, do a backward shoulder roll, really hold your head up high and tuck your chin and walk forward, because what that tells the room, when you enter the room, it says, I am confident, I know my ish. Period, end of story. When you stand up straight, you have your shoulders back and your head held high, people notice. Period, end of story. Because most of the time when you enter a room, what do you see? A lot of schlumping, right? And then if you're going to really be open as well, and you're going to be networking, you don't want to like square off with someone. You want to kind of have an open gesture, right? Which is inviting. You want to invite people in. When you're on Zoom, some of the very keys are, you can always tell if somebody's kind of sitting back in their chair, right? So if they're sitting back in their chair, they're disengaged. You look at them and you say something, and then you can see they're in neutral. If they're in neutral, they're kind of come see, come saw, they're trying to see what's coming next. And then when they lean in, that's when you really get it. So if you're presenting on Zoom, you want to honor your as you go through your talk, you want to be changing your body language too. So if something's important and you want to hyper emphasize it, you're going to look left, look right, and you're going to lean in and say it. And you're going to make sure you have dynamic voice. So like if I'm giving a presentation, whether it's in person or on Zoom, if I know I'm about to do something that's going to need emphasis, I'm going to Scooby-Doo it. Listen, guys, this is what you need to pay attention to, right? And you lean in. And so what that does is it shows everybody else. And then what do? They lean in too, because we're creatures of habit and we mirror one another. Okay. And you can laugh. It's funny. It may sound silly and it may feel silly when you first do it, but try it on. I would love for each of you to try that technique on the next time you're on a Zoom one-on-one. Like pick something that you want to emphasize and just try it on for size, because it really works. And you're gonna laugh. It makes me laugh, giggle internally, because I watch people like lean in when that happens. right? And you're going to drop your voice a little bit too, because like, listen, this is a secret ninja tip, right? And so by being expressive and leaning in, you encourage other people to do that. And what that does is it engages your audience, whether you're on stage and do it. And on stage, you do it in grand fashion, right? You'd be standing back and you look left and then you lean your whole body forward, right? So if you're in a room doing a presentation, you're going to do that. You're going to kind of step back before you're going to emphasize, and then you're going to step forward and lean into the audience, because then they're going to be like, oh, it's coming. I know it's coming, right? And so it gauges that interest. But those are just kind of some basic body language things when you're kind of in that situation. Never, ever, ever cross your arms. If you cross your arms and lean back, then you're basically telling anybody in the room that you don't care what they've got to say, they don't know anything, that you are totally closed off, period, end of story. And even further, like if you're standing in a networking group, lots of people like to fidget with their hands, right? Try not to fidget with your hands. Being expressive is one thing, but if you're like fidgeting a lot, that's cueing people to say you're nervous. And then that destroys their trust and they think you don't know what you're doing. So kind of think about those things and pay attention to what your habits are. And you'll notice, like in meetings, we have a tendency, we're really engaged for a little bit of time, and then we kind of tune out. So if you catch yourself tuned out, pay attention to what you're doing with your body. I can pretty much tell you when you're tuned out, you're kind of like shifted off to one side, you're kind of slumped back a little bit, you maybe lean back, you may be looking somewhere else, you may be looking off the ceiling, and that gives everyone by you that cue, right? So whether you're on Zoom or anything else, be very, very cognizant of trying to actively listen and stay engaged, because that tells people a lot. I will share with you, as a business owner, I meet a lot of business owners, and when I do a one-on-one, whether it's in person or on Zoom or even on the phone, like everybody try this out right now. I know everybody's on Zoom, but try this out. Try to slump. Everybody slump in your chair. Everybody sit back and slump and say hi. Just normal voice, say hi. Everybody slump and say hi. And now everybody sit up really nice and tall and say hi.
Hello.
Hi. Did it sound louder to you? Did you have a different amount of energy that came up? Of course, because when we slump, we're like compressing our lungs. And just the act of sitting tall, if you're on the phone with me, I know your body posture. I am so keyed in to observation because I'm a physical therapist by trade. Y'all, I had to pay attention to all the cues, everything everybody did every step of the way, because people are in pain when they go to PT. So I'm listening to them. So if I'm on the phone with someone, I already could tell you whether they're slumping or not. I know whether they're engaged. And it's really funny because in coaching, people think that if they're on phone, that we won't know that they're doing something different. It's complete BS, because we can definitely hear, you can hear a smile. Like try this on for size. Like frown your face. I know it's hard because we're being silly now, but say hi. Everybody say hi with a frowny face, say hi. Now everybody smile really big and now say hi. Same voice, say hi. Hi, 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 hi. Like it changes your tone.
Amy,
Yeah.
I'm loving you right now. She's like, oh my God.
So like, I'm exaggerating it a little bit because like I'm presenting, right? But the reality is that it exists and you can learn and train your ear to hear that. So, if you're pitching somebody on the phone or you're giving a bid, like Mark is an inspector, he's given a bid by phone, he can train himself to hear, is this person smiling? Is this person frowning? Is this person distracted? Because you can always tell if you pay attention. So remember we talked about active listening? Active listening is so much more than the words. It's also active listening with your eyes. Are they leaned in? Are they smiling? Are they like, this person doesn't know what the heck they're talking about? Like you are looking and feeling and hearing and using all of your senses when you're communicating. And the other person is too, whether they know it or not. And like I said, your body language really, 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 really tells a story. And Paula, go ahead and say that, because I take notes every time I meet with anybody.
Yes, Mike put in the chat about the golden rule of giving what you want to receive. And definitely when you are talking, you want people to listen to you. So you definitely do that. And then Amy Reba put in the chat about managing her ADD, and she has become very aware. And so I responded to that comment and was saying that to manage my ADD, like Jen said earlier, I take massive notes. I never go to a meeting without a notepad and a pen or my computer, basically a pen though, because people are like, oh, what's she doing on the computer? She's not really paying attention. But I literally take notes because I'm one of those squirrel or I'm thinking of everything else I need to do for the rest of the day. So I'm like, nope, we're going to take notes. What did that speaker just say? Okay, light at the end of the tunnel. Great, light at the end of the tunnel. And I literally write it down in keywords. And what that does is it helps me to stay engaged, but it also, in a sense, where you are having a one-on-one conversation, and especially when you are in sales and you're wanting to, get the client, if you want to sign the client, close the deal, to use that person's words, what they said to you, that closes the deal almost 95% of the time. Jen is a master at that. If you've ever watched her, you may not have had the opportunity, but we get to train with her, and she if you had a one-on-one with her, she is dialed into you. She knows what you need. She gives it back to you. And that right there shows that a person is invested in you and your success and getting you to the next level. So I take notes on several levels and I use it for several different things, but I do have ADD too, Amy, and a lot of us do. That's high performers seem to have that. And that's what allows us to be able to manage a lot of things, but I take notes.
Right. And I just want to say this about note taking. On Zoom, a lot of times we're doing it on our computer. I like to actually let the person know, because they only see like the Brady Bunch bubble, right? They don't see the keyboard typing or the note writing. And I know that if I'm going to be putting eyes down to make sure that it makes sense on the computer screen or on the notepad, I let them know. I say, hey, listen, I take extensive notes. That helps me to be really focused and dialed in. And I want to be able to remember this the next time that we meet. And so by saying that, they're always like, oh yeah, absolutely. I type my notes much faster. So I'm like, listen, you're going to hear tap, tap, tap on the keyboard. That's me making sure I'm getting everything that you're saying that's important down so that I can have it to recall, because it also helps us on a memory, a recollection, and a integration standpoint. So, and I'm going to just use it from coaching. When I coach my clients, I'm continually typing because it helps me to process. I'm a kinesthetic learner and a visual learner, not an auditory learner. So by typing it out, my hands know. I'm also a piano player, so my hands are very in key to what's going on, and in physical therapy, I was a very hands-on manual therapist, because like my client comes in, I know what they felt like last time. I know what it needs to feel like. I know what normal is, and I can bring them to there. And so because I know my learning style, I'm able to type, and I type very well. I can then have that memory recollection and that instant implementation above and beyond just the active listening, which is what kind of sets me apart from a lot of other coaches. Like I can get there like this, whereas other coaches might take 30 minutes. And it's because I am literally engaging everything that I've got, every tool in my toolbox to deliver for that person. And then the other thing on notes, and this is very interesting, because when COVID was not happening and we were doing events, I would go into rooms with people who are very, very, very famous. They are the greats. I mean, Jay Abraham is the marketing guru who everybody goes to. I don't know if you know who he is. He's one of my mentors. But look him up. He is literally a genius at marketing. And when you sit next to him in a room, that man is taking notes on the other speakers, because we can always learn something no matter where we are in life from another human being. And so by taking notes, when you look at high performers in those conferences, all of them, and I'm talking about billionaires, are taking notes in a business conference from everybody, wherever they are on the spectrum, to see, oh, okay, there's a gem, I'm going to apply that. And it's not just about taking the notes, it's about then applying it to their business or how they're going to integrate it in their life. And so that's it, Shannon. What was the name again? Jay Abraham, Jay, and then Abraham. He's freaking amazing. He's boring to listen to. Like if you listen to him, he's like so smart. He presents like this and he goes like this and he talks about a whole bunch of different things and he's completely monotone and then he cracks himself up and you're like, why is he laughing? he talks at that meta level. But that's irrelevant. The man is brilliant. But he is taking notes when other people are having a conversation because he's always improving his skills. So I think note taking is something that a lot of people got away from and a lot of people don't do. I've noticed that in networking meetings, most people don't take notes. And most of the time I'm the only person in the room taking notes. But I'm also the one who's passing the most referrals, having the most relationships and moving forward the fastest. So, it's because I've got that extra recollection and that extra ability to pay attention since I'm engaging those tools. That's just something that's really important. And when you go into boardrooms, especially if you're going to be dealing with executives, they want to see that you're taking notes, and they're taking notes because they don't have time to waste. So, it's really about having the high level and then listening and when they ask for what's next, taking it down a notch. So the body language, did you have any other additional body language questions? That was a real general ask about body language and I totally veered off, sorry.
Yeah, we have a question about any tips on showing everything on your face, like how, like if you're showing all of your emotions, so like maybe someone's saying something and you're like, maybe not
Face needs deliverance.
Yes. Like how can you like any tips on how to not do that?
Yeah, so let me tell you, this face needs deliverance because it tells everything. You can ask Paula. Paula has known me since 2012. And when somebody says something and I'm like, what the heck are you thinking? Like, I don't have to say a word because they already know. And people can even feel the expression. So it is practice. I literally practice. I practice thinking about the WTF moments because that's the worst for me. When somebody says something and I'm just like WTF, like it shows. It's like a beacon. So I literally get in the mirror and practice that. And it sounds really ridiculous, but the reality is that if you're saying, oh yeah, oh, I'm so sorry, but you're like, the heck are they thinking? And your face is saying that, like, it's a complete mismatch. So I do practice that. And while we cannot control our micro expressions, it's something we train, but we still have them. What you could do is you can get really clued into your awareness and keyed in. And a tool that I use, because I'm an empath. So for those of you who don't know what that means I feel everybody's feelings in the room. Like I can just feel the energies in the room. And I know when I have that instinctual knowledge and that feeling, I have to really kind of barricade myself. So I actually have a shield, I have an imaginary shield, think a force field from when we were kids on the cartoons. I literally do a breathing technique. I close my eyes and I see a force field coming around me. And then when I'm barraged by all the other people's emotions, it doesn't have as strong of an impact. So that might sound a little woo-woo for some people. That's okay. But having that shield, and then I also have, I also can play with that shield. Like sometimes it's a cheesecloth. When I'm working with my clients, I don't want to take on all their emotions, but it's like a cheesecloth. I let some of it in because I have to be able to feel what they're feeling to walk them through the next slide, especially when we do deep dives. And so I use that skill set. And then I put the force field back up when it's time to come into coach mode. So it's really a training and a practice. So training in the mirror, training your emotions, getting keyed in with your, with your awareness, keyed in with your awareness, and then practicing. And then if you're the person who doesn't show emotion and you're really good at that and you want to add emotion, the same rule applies. You start looking at increased emotion. So Jen did the practice to not show emotion. And then I went on stages. And when you're on a stage, you have to show more emotion. You have to exaggerate when you are presenting because other people can't see that. If you're on a stage and there's 10,000 people in the room, they can't see your eyebrows do a little wiggle. You got to go way big with it. You got to open the eyes, right? And so it's really funny. It goes both ways and it's practicing. It's a skill set and all skills can be learned. So definitely get in the mirror. I know the chat's popping. I don't watch the chat. For those who are chatting, please don't ever DM me and chat when I'm on Zoom because that's distracting to me.
I will. Oh yeah, Carrie, you want to go ahead?
I was just saying, there's a lot of really good stuff coming in. Michael was talking about, and I suggested a book of alter ego. Sometimes that is very helpful to kind of come in as someone else and not yourself. That kind of goes along with confidence a lot of times, but it can also help with kind of putting on that face. And then another thing is about grounding your feet, just grounding yourself. That's something I teach a lot of people with confidence as well, is just grounding your feet. I like to spread my toes, and actually, my pinky toe and my not my thumb, my big toe, really planting them with, the 3 points of with my heel, and really just grounding myself and pressing my pelvic down. And I just feel it gives me so much strength and confidence. So a lot of that is around confidence, but that actually comes into play with your facial expressions as well. I know speaking in public was a huge place that I overcame that. And, I run my own Women, Wine, and Wellness group events every month. And that was huge for me. And that's how I overcame that, was just grounding my feet. I felt like my feet were glued to the ground. And then smiling and smile with your eyes. That is something I tell people too. Smile with your eyes. If you're just smiling and people can read the window to your soul. I'm here and I'm having a great time, or I am having such a great time. It elevates your voice. It gives it more excitement, and gives that lean in feeling to people. So those are some things that I personally do.
And to add to that, Carrie, exactly. I used to watch America's Top Model, and Tyra Banks would always say "smize," and she would move her eyes, and so it was an eye thing. And that goes back to what Jen was talking about with the eye contact, really using your eyes to communicate what you want to say, and to show interest, and to sometimes help with managing those faces that we show, those emotions that we show through, and I am a recovering face needs deliverance. A lot of people, I'm very energetic as well. And a lot of people, I don't have to say a word, and people can look at my face and be like, girl, what is going on with you? And I'm like, listen, y'all about to get some. But when you're in a professional setting, you can't do that. You have to take it on. And like Jen said, you practice, and I had to practice. And so I practiced every meeting, every opportunity, every time anybody told me something, I was like, okay, great. So how are we going to work through that? And I just, and Amy, I think it was Amy Reba, made a good point of mindset as well. I had to really work through my mindset on when people said things that I didn't agree with. It wasn't that they were personally attacking me, because that face went like, what are you, so it was about, hey, that's their opinion. I respect that totally. Great. I'm glad you're sharing how you feel. Let's work through this. Let's partner. I want to understand more so that we can get a better, so we can move forward. And that, coming from that place of, I just want to understand, not judgment, really helped me to move past my face and how I really felt, because I'm a very energetic person, and I may still be great. Let's work through this. And my energy is like, girl, that ain't gonna work. So really coming from a place of, I respect where you're coming from, no judgment. Hey, tell me more so I can understand, because I just don't understand. And sometimes not understanding people take as non-agreement. And sometimes I feel like I'm not agreeing, but it's not about non-agreement. It's about understanding. So coming from a place, working really on that mindset of not taking it personal, and coming from a place of, okay, I want to understand more and more. Let's work on this and see how, I'm really understanding. So I really believe that you can see the whole change and light on my face. And I really do believe that when I was able to really get that mindset of, it's not about the person, it's crazy and they want to just make my life a living, it's, they really feel this way. And so let's dive into why they feel this way, and let's work it out.
Right. I think something to remember, and especially in business, is all judgment is self-judgment. And when anybody reacts, they're reacting to something that was triggered inside of them. And none of us have walked in one another's shoes in business or in life. And so we don't know what the trigger was. A lot of times we don't know what they might have been through that has caused that trauma trigger, or what have you, that elicited that response. So if you really understand, in business particularly, that business is never personal. Business is never personal. It doesn't mean anything when somebody says no to you in business, or when they say something that might be construed as what are they thinking? It has nothing to do with you as a human being. It really and truly is their own reaction, their own stuff, because all judgment is self-judgment. And if you can just kind of integrate that into your thought process and your mindset, it does two things. Number one, when you're triggered, it's not the person across the table from you who ticked you off, really. It's something that's inside of you that's not aligned with something. So it's a cue for you to check your self-awareness. And number two, it's kind of like a shield for whatever comes at you to bounce off, so that you don't take it personally, because they are like, we perceive the world the way we are, not the way it actually is. And so every human being does that. And that's where a lot of conflict comes from. And particularly as CEOs, and particularly in business, when we're dealing with a lot of personalities and a lot of egos, if you can draw on that and you can come from that more kind of removed perspective, I call it the 40,000 foot view, and see everyone has their own perspective of a given situation. There's 9 of us on my little face bubbles right now. All of us are perceiving this moment differently. It's the same moment. And if you look at the recording, you see it's the same moment, but each of us is receiving it in the way that we are. And so if you kind of hold that perspective, it really helps you to separate business and personal, to not take things personally. And it really helps you when you have a reaction to say, okay, well, why did I react that way? What in me do I need to look at and focus at offline so that I can really move that? And there's a book, it's called Leadership and Self-Deception. It's from the Arbinger Institute. It's on like multiple runs, but it's really good about, are you in your box, or are you outside of the box and considering like other people's perspectives? It's kind of a real heady type read. It'll take you a little while. It's not a speed read, but it's a great book in a lot of ways, particularly for leadership. So that's definitely good. All right. Amy put forth a Stop Reacting article that she did. Yeah, send that. If you want to send that to us, Amy, we can broadcast it to people for you. We're happy to do that. If there's not any other questions, I want to give you guys back the last 10 minutes of this hour. I'm a big fan of reclaiming time, so I'm going to let you reclaim a little time. Hopefully this was beneficial. If it was streamed to Facebook Live. Please feel free to share it with anybody. We're an open book. Yeah, it's real informal. It kind of is a, hey, we want to share this. And if you take something away, please feel free to share it with somebody else. We're here to share the health, share the wealth, and really elevate everyone up together. So thank you for your time and have an amazing day.